If you want to understand why one country has kept obesity under 5%, while the rest of the developed world spirals past 30%, don't look at their gym memberships. Don't look at their calorie counts. Don't look at their willpower. Look at what's sitting on their breakfast table every single morning. Japan has the longest life expectancy on the planet. Their obesity rate is nearly 10 times lower than the United States. And here's what stops most people in their tracks when they hear this. They are not starving themselves. They are not running marathons before sunrise. They are not counting a single calorie. They are eating a specific food that quietly reprograms how the body stores and burns fat at the cellular level. A food that most Westerners have never even heard of, let alone tried. And the science behind what this food does inside your gut, inside your fat cells, inside your liver, it is nothing short of remarkable. Now I know what you might be thinking. You've tried diets. You've cut carbs, skipped meals, and walked every morning. And the weight, especially around your belly, just doesn't budge the way it used to. That's not a willpower problem. That is not a laziness problem. That is a biology problem. And today, we are going to fix it at the root. Because what most people in the West have never been told is that fat storage is not just about how much you eat. It is about the signals your body is receiving from your gut, from your bacteria, from the foods on your plate. And there is one specific Japanese food that changes those signals completely. The best part? You can start eating it tomorrow morning. I'm Dr. Sarah Ellison, and I've spent over a decade as a practicing physician helping men and women over 60 reclaim their metabolic health, their energy, and their confidence. I've watched thousands of patients follow every mainstream diet rule in the book, Eat Less, Move More, Cut. The fat, count the calories, and still struggle with stubborn weight, especially around their midsection. That pattern is what pushed me to look beyond Western diet culture for real answers. And what I found in the peer-reviewed research on traditional Japanese dietary patterns didn't just surprise me. It changed the way I counsel every single patient who walks through my door. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the one fermented Japanese food that has been shown in laboratory studies to literally shrink visceral fat cells, rebalance your gut bacteria, and shut down the fat storage signals your body has been receiving for years. I'll show you exactly how much to eat, when to eat it, and the critical preparation mistakes that destroy its benefits before they ever reach your bloodstream. But before we dive in, if you find this kind of evidence-based information useful, take 2 seconds right now and hit that subscribe button. It's completely free, and it means you'll never miss the information that could genuinely change your health. Now, let's get into it. To understand why this Japanese food works, you first need to understand something that most diet programs completely ignore, and it is the real reason so many people over 60 cannot shift their belly fat no matter what they try. It comes down to your gut microbiome. Think of your gut like a control room. Inside that control room, there are trillions of bacteria, and their job is to send instructions to every system in your body, including your fat cells. In a healthy, well-functioning control room, those bacteria are sending the right signals. They're telling your body to burn stored fat for energy, to regulate your appetite hormones properly, and to keep inflammation low. But here's what happens in most Western guts, especially as we get older. Years of processed foods, refined sugars, antibiotics, and low-fiber diets have slowly wiped out the beneficial bacteria. And the bacteria that have taken their place are sending completely different instructions. They are telling your fat cells to expand. They are triggering inflammation deep in your tissues. They are driving insulin resistance. And they are making you hungrier, so the cycle keeps going. This is how visceral fat forms. Visceral fat is not the fat you can pinch on the surface. It is the fat that wraps around your organs, your liver, your pancreas, your intestines, and it pumps out inflammatory chemicals that drive cardiovascular disease, blood sugar problems, and metabolic dysfunction. You can't see it in the mirror, but it is doing quiet damage every single day. Now here is the critical piece that Japan gets right and the West has largely missed. The traditional Japanese diet is arguably the most powerful gut microbiome optimizing diet on Earth. It is built around fermented foods, marine omega-3s, plant fiber, and polyphenol that essentially restock that control room with the right bacteria that flip your body's default setting from fat storage back to fat burning. And the research confirms this is not just cultural folklore. A massive global study published in a leading nutrition journal analyzed 132 countries and found that the higher a country scored on eating like the Japanese, more fermented foods, more fish, more sea vegetables, less red meat, less processed food, the lower its obesity rate. Not slightly lower, dramatically lower. Even after controlling for income levels, healthcare spending, and lifestyle factors. The food itself was the variable that kept showing up. So what is this food? And how exactly does it reprogram your metabolism? Let's get into it. The food at the center of Japan's metabolic advantage is one that has been eaten in Japanese households for over 1,000 years. It sits on breakfast tables across the country every single morning. It is affordable, it is accessible, and it has now been studied extensively in peer-reviewed research for its effects on body fat, gut bacteria, and metabolic health. It is called natto. Natto is made from soybeans that have been fermented with a specific strain of bacteria called Bacillus subtilis. The fermentation process transforms ordinary soybeans into something that functions almost like a biological delivery system inside your gut. And the research on what it does is remarkable. Let me walk you through the 3 mechanisms that make natto so powerful. Mechanism 1. It reshapes your gut bacteria toward a lean profile. Inside your gut, there are 2 major families of bacteria that researchers pay very close attention to: Bacteroidetes and firmicutes. Study after study has found that people who carry excess body fat tend to have a higher ratio of firmicutes to Bacteroidetes. People who are lean tend to have the opposite ratio. This is not a coincidence. These bacterial families influence how your body extracts calories from food, how it stores fat, and how your appetite hormones behave. When you eat natto regularly, the Bacillus subtilis bacteria in it actively shifts that ratio back in favor of the lean profile, increasing Bacteroidetes and reducing the dominance of firmicutes. A study published in the Journal of Molecular Nutrition and Food Research found that regular natto intake significantly reduced visceral fat accumulation, and it did so in a dose-dependent manner, meaning the more consistently you ate it, the more visceral fat disappeared. These were quantifiable, measurable biological changes, not survey results, not self-reported outcomes, measured in laboratory assays. Mechanism 2, it shuts down your body's fat storage signals. Here is where natto does something that no standard diet advice even touches. Inside your liver, there is a process called fatty acid synthesis, essentially, your liver converting excess nutrients into fat for storage. In people with metabolic dysfunction, this process runs at a higher rate than it should, and that excess fat ends up being deposited around your organs. The fermented compounds in natto, specifically the nattokinase enzyme and the bioavailable isoflavones released during fermentation, have been shown to suppress this fatty acid synthesis pathway. They essentially turn down the dial on your body's fat production signal. At the same time, they promote fatty acid catabolism, the breakdown and burning of fat that is already stored. Now here is something important to understand. Plain soybeans do not do this anywhere near as effectively. Think of regular soybeans like a locked medicine cabinet. The beneficial compounds are inside, but your body has limited access to them because of anti-nutrients called trypsin inhibitors that block absorption. Fermentation is the key that opens that cabinet. It breaks down those anti-nutrients, releases bioavailable isoflavones, activates the nattokinase enzyme, and delivers live probiotic bacteria all at once. The fermented version is not just slightly better than plain soybeans. It is in a completely different category. Mechanism 3, it reduces the inflammation driving your metabolism dysfunction. Visceral fat does not just sit there. It actively secretes inflammatory chemicals called cytokines that interfere with insulin signaling, suppress your metabolism, and keep your body locked in a state of chronic low-grade inflammation. This is why people with high visceral fat often find that their blood sugar is creeping up, their energy is lower, and their body simply does not respond to diet changes the way it once did. The isoflavones and probiotic compounds in natto work together to reduce this systemic inflammation, calming the inflammatory signals coming from visceral fat, improving insulin sensitivity, and gradually restoring your metabolism's ability to respond to the right signals. Researchers studying obese mouse models found that 8 weeks of Bacillus subtilis treatment significantly reduced body weight, visceral fat deposits around the organs, liver weight, and serum triglycerides, alongside measurable shifts in the gut microbiome. These were not subtle changes. They were significant across every metabolic marker measured. This is why natto is not just another superfood trend. The mechanism is real, the research is there, and the Japanese have been eating it every morning for over 1,000 years. Now let's talk about exactly how to use this, because how you eat natto matters just as much as whether you eat it. The daily amount. Research and traditional Japanese practice both point to the same target, 50 grams per day. That is roughly one small traditional pack, which is exactly how natto is sold in Japanese grocery stores. One pack every morning. That is the protocol. When to eat it. Morning is the optimal time, and this is deliberate. Your gut microbiome is most receptive to new bacterial input in the morning hours, and pairing natto with your first meal of the day means the Bacillus subtilis bacteria have the entire day to travel through your digestive system and do their work. Eat it at breakfast, with rice, with eggs, whatever your morning meal looks like. How to make it taste good. This is the question I get most often, because natto has a strong smell and a sticky, stringy texture that is genuinely unfamiliar to most Western palates. Here is what I tell my patients. The way the Japanese eat it is the easiest way to enjoy it. Mix one pack with a small splash of soy sauce and a little mustard. Stir it vigorously until it gets frothy and serve it over warm rice. The soy sauce cuts the bitterness. The mustard adds a familiar sharpness. And the warm rice mellows everything out. If you are just starting out and the texture feels like too much, begin with half a pack mixed into something warm like rice porridge or a soft scrambled egg. Give yourself 2 weeks to adjust. Most people find that within 2 to 3 weeks, the taste becomes genuinely enjoyable, even something they look forward to. Fresh or frozen, does it matter? Frozen natto works just as well as fresh. The Bacillus subtilis bacteria go dormant during freezing and reactivate fully after thawing. So if your local Asian grocery store only carries frozen natto, that is completely fine. Look for it in the frozen section of any well-stocked Asian supermarket or order it online. It ships frozen and keeps for months. Here's one important rule. Never microwave natto or heat it directly. The goal is to keep those bacteria alive until they reach your gut. Eat it at room temperature or mixed into a warm, not hot dish. Natto is the cornerstone. But the Japanese do not eat it in isolation, and that is part of what makes their dietary patterns so metabolically powerful. There are 3 other foods that work directly alongside natto to amplify everything we just talked about. Think of these as your morning stack, a simple daily routine that takes about 10 minutes to prepare and works with your biology rather than against it. Food 1, matcha green tea. In the West, most people drink green tea brewed in a bag. In Japan, matcha is consumed as a fine powder whisked directly into water, meaning you ingest the entire leaf, not just the brewed water. This difference is enormous. Drinking traditional matcha delivers up to 137 times more of a compound called EGCG, epigallocatechin gallate, compared to a standard steeped green tea bag. EGCG does something extraordinary. It activates brown adipose tissue, a special type of fat in your body that actually burns energy rather than storing it. Unlike white fat, which is your body's storage system, brown fat generates heat by burning white fat as fuel. A systematic review in the journal Nutrients confirmed that the catechins in green tea upregulate a protein called UCP1, the molecular switch that turns brown fat on. Research from the University of Geneva found that green tea extract increased 24-hour energy expenditure measurably, and when they tested caffeine alone at the same dose, there was 0 effect. It was specifically the catechin-caffeine combination that kept the fat-burning switch flipped on. Your protocol: 1 to 2 teaspoons of ceremonial-grade matcha powder, whisked into water heated to around 175 degrees Fahrenheit, never boiling, because extreme heat destroys the catechins. Add a small squeeze of lemon, which increases EGCG absorption significantly. And do not add cow's milk. The casein proteins in dairy bind to the catechins and block absorption. Plant-based milk is fine. Food 2, miso soup. One bowl of miso soup every morning delivers something that most supplements cannot replicate: probiotics and prebiotic fiber in a single serving, working together. The key is unpasteurized miso paste. Pasteurized miso has been heat-treated, which kills all the beneficial bacteria. Unpasteurized miso keeps them alive. Dissolve 1 tablespoon of unpasteurized miso paste into warm, not boiling, water or dashi broth. Add a strip of dried seaweed, a few cubes of soft tofu, and some sliced scallions. This single bowl nourishes the gut bacteria that natto is helping to establish. Think of natto as planting the seeds and miso soup as watering them every morning. Food 3, seaweed. Seaweed contains a unique compound called fucoxanthin, and what it does to visceral fat specifically is remarkable. Studies have shown that fucoxanthin increases the expression of a protein called UCP1 in white adipose tissue, essentially converting white fat cells toward a brown fat-like phenotype. Your existing fat storage cells begin behaving more like fat-burning cells. Add 5 to 10 grams of dried wakame or kombu to your miso soup, or rehydrate it and add it to your breakfast bowl alongside your natto. 3 to 4 times per week is enough to deliver a meaningful amount of fucoxanthin. Together, these 3 foods, matcha, miso, and seaweed, work alongside natto to keep your gut bacteria thriving, your brown fat activated, and your visceral fat under continuous metabolic pressure. This is not a complicated routine. This is a 10-minute morning habit that compounds over time. Now, before you run to the store, let me save you from the mistakes I see most often, because doing this wrong means getting 0 results even if you are buying the right foods. Mistake 1, quitting before the biology has time to work. This is the single biggest mistake. People try natto for a week, do not see dramatic results, and stop. But your gut microbiome does not restructure itself in 7 days. The research is consistent. Meaningful shifts in your bacterial population take 4 to 8 weeks of consistent daily intake. The Japanese are not lean because they ate natto once. They eat it every single day, year after year. Consistency is the entire mechanism. Give it 8 weeks before you evaluate the results. Mistake 2, destroying the benefits with heat. Both natto and miso soup are alive foods. Their benefits come from live bacteria. Heat is the enemy. Never dissolve your miso paste into boiling water. Add it after you have removed the pot from the heat. Never microwave your natto. The rule is simple. If the food is hot enough to burn your finger, it is hot enough to kill the bacteria you are trying to deliver to your gut. Warm is fine. Hot is not. Mistake 3, buying supplements instead of the whole food. I see this constantly. Patients buy natto kinase capsules instead of eating natto. Matcha extract pills instead of drinking matcha. And I understand the appeal. Supplements feel convenient. But here's what you lose when you make that swap. A natto kinase supplement gives you 1 enzyme. Actual natto gives you the natto kinase enzyme plus live Bacillus subtilis bacteria plus bioavailable isoflavones plus soluble fiber plus vitamin K2, all working together, synergistically. Supplements give you a photocopy of 1 page. Whole food gives you the entire book. Mistake 4, trusting the scale over the tape measure. If you start this protocol and your waist measurement shrinks, but the number on the scale barely moves, do not be discouraged. That is actually success. Visceral fat loss does not always show up on the scale, especially if you are gaining lean tissue at the same time, which happens naturally as your metabolism improves. Measure your waist circumference once a week. It is a far more accurate indicator of what is actually changing inside your body than your weight alone. Now that you know what not to do, I need to share something that most people never talk about, and in my opinion, it is the hidden reason why some people follow this exact protocol and get transformational results, while others do everything right on paper and wonder why nothing is changing. After over a decade of watching patients go through this, I can tell you with confidence, the difference almost never comes down to the foods themselves. It comes down to these 3 things. Tip 1, spread your fermented foods through the day. Eat natto at breakfast, miso soup at lunch or dinner, and if you include fermented pickles, have them with your evening meal. This creates a steady, continuous supply of beneficial bacteria arriving in your gut throughout the day, rather than one overwhelming dose that your system cannot fully process at once. Tip 2. Respect the overnight window. Most traditional Japanese households eat their last meal by 7 or 8 in the evening and breakfast around 7 in the morning, a natural 11 to 12-hour gap. This is not intentional intermittent fasting. It is simply cultural timing. But what it does is give your gut bacteria extended, uninterrupted time overnight to do their repair work, while your body burns stored fat during sleep. You do not need to do anything extreme. Just let the kitchen close after dinner and open again at breakfast. Tip 3. Stop eating at 80% full. The Okinawans call this harahachibu, the practice of stopping when you are about 80% satisfied rather than completely full. It takes roughly 20 minutes for your gut's satiety hormones to reach your brain. When you stop before that signal arrives, you give your biology the chance to catch up, and by the time it does, you feel perfectly satisfied. This single habit reduces daily caloric intake by 15 to 20% without any feeling of deprivation. It does not require counting. It only requires pausing. Here is what I want you to carry with you after watching this video. Your metabolism is not broken. Gaining weight as you age is not inevitable. Metabolic decline is not written into your DNA. When Japanese people move to Western countries and adopt Western diets, their obesity rates rise to match their neighbors within a single generation. This is not genetics. This is biology responding to its environment, responding to what is on the plate. Every one of the biological systems we talked about today, your gut microbiome, your brown fat, your inflammatory pathways, they exist inside your body right now. They are not gone. They are not damaged beyond repair. They are simply waiting for the right signal. And now you know exactly what that signal is. If this video gave you something valuable, share it with someone you care about who has been struggling with stubborn belly fat or metabolic health, because over 40% of adults worldwide are now overweight, and most of them have never heard any of this. And if you want to go even deeper, check out the video on the screen. What you're about to discover is something most people over 60 have never been told. This is Dr. Sarah Ellison, and I'll see you there.